What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Justine of Elyose. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. Your newest album, Devant, is absolutely awesome. Was this continuing in the veins of what we heard off of your previous albums, such as Reconnection or Ipso Facto, or is this almost kind of like a new beginning for Elyose in a way?
The new beginning was with the previous EP that was called Persona. That was after Reconnection and just before this one. That's when I started that's when I became a solo artist. So the music changed a little bit because before that, Elias used to be a band. Then I became a solo artist and released Persona, and that's when the change happened.
Mm.
happened. The change is it's small. It's just that it became a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more metalcore, I would say. It's just a metalcore twist. Of course, we're not doing metalcore, but they are, metalcore escapades sometimes here and there. And that's what changed. So it's just a heavier than what we used to do.
Hmm. Was that maybe kind of like a preconceived vision? Was that how you always knew it would go into it when this became a solo project, or did it just kind of turn out that way?
No, I knew I've always wanted to do more extreme. I listened to a lot of extreme metal, and with my previous band members, they were more into pop metal. So that was the opportunity to do my own songwriting and became a bit more aggressive. That's what I had always wanted to do. Yeah.
Mhm. Would you say that with the previous two albums, like being that this is a solo endeavor, it's only coming from your mind and only your heart, would on a in terms of the music or in terms of the lyricism or anything, was it more collaborative back then? Was it almost kind of like it was going in multiple directions and expressing different aspects outside of who you were?
Yeah, because we were four band members, so we were all participating in the album, and we were all songwriters. I mean, except the drummer who was the lyricist, but we were three songwriters. So it couldn't be all me. It couldn't be too extreme.
Hmm.
And when I became a solo artist, I was able to do just what I liked, and yeah, that was kind of a relief. But I also love what we did when it was a more of a collaboration. And today I'm back to collaborating because now we are two people in the band. So yeah.
Hmm. If you were to like maybe perform some of the older stuff off of Ipso Facto or Reconnection, would it almost have a different type of meaning or maybe a different lease of life than what it did before when it was the four piece?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I was considering re-releasing an old album with the current production current sound that we have that is a bit more modern and more aggressive, and I wanted to the band Lacuna Coil.
That's my favorite band of all time.
Oh, great! So they did
Mm.
Comalize a
Yep.
new they released this year, and Comalize with their current sound, which is more modern. And I was thinking about doing the same thing with our debut album because I still like it, but I grew up as an artist. I My songwriting and my vocal skills are different, and I really want to put it, to like release a new version of it, and that's exactly what they did, Lacuna Coil, and I was inspired by that. I think I should do the same. But that's just an idea for now. And to answer your question, I still love all the songs from Ipso Facto and Reconnection. It's just that they would maybe become a bit more to the a new metal style today. If I went live and with my new musicians, I would a little bit more. I would make them a little bit more aggressive. But it's not that I want aggressiveness. It's just that it's just the what we became. What Elyose is today because we have a 10-year career, and some things have changed. So.
Do you think that maybe the Persona EP serves as sort of like a good trailer, or maybe sort of like a good preview of what we would hear off of Devant, or is there a lot more to be discovered, and that's just sort of scratching the surface of what's to come?
That's a good introduction. Yeah, that's a good trailer, like you said, because it's an EP, so there are only 4 tracks, and some people liked the new direction, and we continued on that direction, but went further this time. It's just a sequel of Persona, but we went further in the songwriting and the synergy between Anthony and I also um, um, became more important. We learned to work with each other, and our experience is now not the same. So we are able to do more things together in terms of the songwriting, the production. He even came to Paris to record myself because we used to work from the distance, because he's in Canada and I'm in Paris, in France, and he's in Canada. And we decided we would finish this album together in person in the studio, like a real band.
Ironic.
Because we had, because it worked really well. We have the same work ethic. We have the same, we have also the same goals, and as artists, also we complement each other. So we really had to see each other in person, and that's how it happened.
When it comes to the music too, we talked about it before, like if there's sort of like a preconceived vision within your sound into the solo work, but everything from Reconnection to ipso facto, you know, as a fan of Elyose, I've listened to Elyose before, and like I always thought, I don't consider it new metal or metalcore, I just consider it a very experimental metal project. Is it maybe a little bit easier to incorporate new elements into your sound? Because I see very brutal elements, I see some poppier elements, as you said in the earlier stuff. It's fair to say that the sky is the limit when bringing in new sounds to Elyose, right?
Especially when it's your 5th album. I mean, fans are not expecting always all the time the same things, and of course you grow up as an artist, and it's especially when I became a solo artist that I authorized myself to incorporate new things, and wasn't, I took a bit of risks because it was a bit different from what I had done before, and because like you're saying, it's experimental. We mixed electronic and symphonic and new metal, and so we are not afraid to try new things. Yeah, even for the next record, we're gonna go back to the beginning of Elyose, adding more electronics and house sounds. So yeah, we're going to go back to our roots. But yeah, we're not afraid to try new things and incorporate new elements, and yeah.
I could see like Elyose being a gateway in for metalheads getting into lighter stuff, and vice versa, like pop fans getting more into heavy metal.
I would love Elyose to be a gateway.
Yeah.
I don't think the latest album though could be a gateway because it may be too heavy. But the 2 first, I think, could be a getaway, and that's a huge compliment. I would love, people who don't normally like metal to get into metal with Elyose, but from what I see, that's not very often the case. People who listen to Elyose that are not metalheads are still resistant to to this guitar sound that is still there. I've never converted a non-metalhead to metal with Elyose.
Yeah, never say never though. I could see you being somebody's gateway into Cannibal Corpse, and I could see you being somebody's gateway into Cardi B. So in the end, I think it goes both directions.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Now with Anthony coming on board for this sort of like a duet that you said, being that this is like a solo endeavor, this is coming from your vision. But do you and Anthony kind of need to be in the same headspace when writing together and performing together, in order to like make the song consistent, or is it mainly just kind of like your vision in a way, and Anthony more or less kind of like adapts to what you're envisioning?
When you say in the same headspace, you
Like
mean
in the
physically,
same,
or?
yeah, in the same creative mind.
Oh, we don't, he or I would need to adjust because we have the same musical tastes. I mean, we know exactly the type of music we want to do. He knows Elyose very well because he just joined in he joined actually for Persona. I was still a solo artist, but I was hiring him, you know, as a session musician at the time. And one day I told him, I heard you saying you were a musician. Why don't you give me a few songs of yours? I'd like to listen. And he said, "Oh, I'm happy you're asking me." And when I heard, I immediately liked, and it made me think of his previous band that I was a very big fan of, Smash Head Combo. And I asked him if he wanted to write for Elyose, and he listened to all the previous albums, and he got in the mood, and now he's able to you know, to write and be consistent with what we did before. So he added his own twists, but there's still some the Elyose touch there because he got familiar with our previous music. So that's where, and when I tell you that we're going to go back to our roots, that's because he was also inspired by our debut album with all those electronic sounds. And yeah, so I think that the latest album is consistent with what we did. That was not your question, sorry, but
No, no, it answered it
about Anthony and
perfectly.
I being to be on the same page. We already are. That's the magic of it. That's why we are working together, because we are always on the same page. And in terms of the music style, music genre, I never told him, no, that's not the good direction for Elyose. I'm very open to what he's proposing because now he's in charge of most of the music. Now he's doing the music and I'm doing the vocals. This is how we share the vocals, and lyrics is another person, but I'm doing the vocals, vocal arrangements. I used to do the songwriting a lot, but now I'm letting him do that more. And this is how we adjusted of who is doing what. We both, you know, give our opinion on everything, but he's mainly on the instruments and I'm mainly on the vocals. And that's how we share the work. And yeah, working from the distance, you know, by internet, is also is easy today. I mean, we are on WhatsApp every day talking to each other, and it's as if he was, you know, with me, except for the different time because he's in Canada. But we managed to find a good schedule, and we are every day. It's like, as if it was living in my own city, you know. Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that answers your question.
Perfectly, perfectly. Moving on to the lyrics, like you mentioned, have you always needed to have music before you could think of lyrics, or could a lyrical idea that you have maybe help influence the sound of a song?
I've never worked this way. I've released 5 albums, and I always work with the music before I. So I'm not a lyricist. I did a few lyrics for a few songs, but I don't consider myself very gifted for that. I prefer the songwriting. So there's a third Elyose member who is in the dark, hidden, an anonymous. I mean, he's not part of the duet, but he's there to do the lyrics, and sometimes he also participates in the music. His name is Jean Baptiste, and he always does the lyrics at the end when the song and even the vocal lines are ready. And so it's difficult job because the lyrics has to fit my vocals. You know, the number of syllable has to be good for what I created first, and I'm not flexible because when I write my vocal lines, they are very well. You know, I worked a lot, and they have to be this way with this number of syllable, with this rhythm, and so it has to. The lyrics have to fit, and that's how I work. I wouldn't be able to start from the lyrics and then take the lyrics and create vocal lines from the lyrics. I've never worked this way, but I know some other artists do, but that's not the way I work.
Well, I felt like there's a lot of instances where Eliose's music is very rhythm driven. So you're right, like going one syllable over the arrangement or something could like ruin the whole song. So it's good to have that sort of helping
You got
hand.
it.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah, that's why the lyrics are the last thing we do. And for the themes, we take into consideration the music and the mood of the music. For example, on our latest single, it was there was this beginning very aggressive, and Jean Baptiste told me it makes me it reminds me of people during the Black Friday riots, getting onto each other during the riots. And we ended up calling that song Black Friday, but in French, Vendredi Noir. And it's about compulsive purchases and during those promotions. But the music inspired the lyrics. And sometimes it's just that he wanted to talk about that specific topic, and he thought the song was, had a good mood for it. But yeah, I don't remember what you were asking.
You answered it perfectly. And I'd imagine too, though, with having help with the lyrics, it does have to resonate with you in a specific way if you are going to sing them, right?
Yeah, it has to take into account that that I'm a woman, and that on my age, I'm a woman when I sing in the first person. Sometimes I don't sing in the first person, but it has to take into account the characters I'll be playing if I do a music video. So we have to keep in mind if there will be a music video or not. So I could play my character. Sorry. I can't play an old man, or I don't. It has to be me playing the character. So the lyrics have to fit for that. And yes, but the main difficulty is, like I told you, for the rhythm and for the number of syllables for each sentence, and that's the most difficult thing for my lyricist. Yeah.
It's funny to hear you mention like characters like in the video and who you would portray, because I also think that Eliose's music is very cinematic. I almost feel like it can serve as almost like a just as much of a soundtrack in a way as it does for an album. Are you thinking of maybe images or different sort of characters in your mind as you are songwriting?
Not when I'm songwriting. Is When I'm songwriting, I'm more focused on the emotions, of the harmonies. I'm 100% focused on the emotions. But when the lyrics are coming, I'm already thinking, especially when there's a video of the character I will play, also with the interpretation. I also have to know what I'm talking about, and something I can stand out for. So yeah, it's important. But no, it's not during the songwriting that I think of the characters. More during the lyrics, and when there's a video coming also, or when we have to find a script for a video, I'm thinking of a character. I like for my videos to play characters. I like to play a character. I'm not a very big fan of videos where we're just doing playback. I like. Or the musicians are just playing their instruments. I like to play. I guess I like to create different Justines,
Yeah.
different on different stories. Yeah, that's also part of the experience. Like you said, cinematic. I like this way of describing our music, because the visual also is important.
Yeah. I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
When it comes to getting the inspiration to write, do you almost look for the inspiration? Is there a place you go to in order to cultivate ideas, or does inspiration just strike out of the blue for you?
No, if you don't work, nothing will strike out of the blue. That's a myth. You have to be disciplined, and you have to work. It's not gonna come out of the blue. I think it's a myth. I think even writers who write books, they're not inspired, just all of a sudden. They have writing hours from 9 to 10. This is when I write. And I also have a schedule, and from this time to this time, this is my songwriting hour. And even if nothing comes from me, I dedicate those hours to the songwriting. It's and that's I believe that the results come with work, and deliberate work. It's not, if you don't do anything, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, maybe some people are just inspired, under the shower or on studio rehearsals, during studio rehearsals. No, this part of my daily routine, and I dedicate 2 hours a day, or 3 hours a day to songwriting, and that's how I work.
Yeah.
Like
I had a conversation with my tattoo artist about that one time. She says if I only tattooed when I was inspired, I wouldn't have a house. Like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
waiting around for inspiration is kind of like watching the grass grow. Sure, it can happen, but it's going to take a while and it ain't going to be very fulfilling.
Watching the grass grow. I like that expression. I'm gonna use it
Thank you.
again if I'm asked this question. It's like watching the grass grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing will happen.
Hey.
Nothing will magically happen. No, that's the artist. That's the artist myth, I think. But I think for writers or singers, I've never. I mean, when I listen to podcasts and artists or writers, they always say that it's work. It's work to do. It's yeah. It's discipline. It's trying to manage your to be indestructible. Try to become indestructible. Try to focus on your work and having time slots for it.
Yeah, and many people think that like work is the opposite of like the organic spiritual nature of creating art. No, it's fucking work, and that's the organic spiritual
Yeah, it's
nature of
just
it.
it's work like filling out Excel Excel sheets. That's just it's just work. I mean, there's nothing magical or spiritual, or I mean, in my case, it's just work, and with emotions, but still, it's work
Yeah, and it's a
and
labor.
discipline at work.
Yep. It's disciplined and it's the art of controlling your emotions and knowing where and how to exercise them in a good manner.
Yeah, controlling your emotions, exactly. But for every job, I think controlling your emotions and your internal triggers, to everything. The more you can be focused and indestructible, the best work you do. But I think it's not just for artists. I think we work all the same way. I don't think artists are special because they are creative people. I think we have
It's
to have the same discipline and the
it,
you know
it's such a breath of fresh air to hear you say that. Thank you. Thank you. I've done thousands of interviews and you're the first one to say that. Thank you. Thank you. You couldn't be more right. And yes, we all need to control our emotions. I know I've seen people who never control their emotions and they end up in jail. So clearly, controlling your emotions is sort of like the best way to do. Um, and the final question I wanted to ask you is, how do you know when you are finished with a song?
Oh, that's a very good question because it's a never-ending story because there are so many you have to make choices in the end because, for example, for a lead vocals, there are like 10 options for the back-end vocals and I have to choose one. So this is where being in a band comes out handy because you can ask your band members to give their opinion because once they give their opinion, you can make a choice. And once you've made the choice, you stick to it. But you're right. It's like a movie. It's like people who make movies. I've heard an interview of George Lucas for Star Wars. He said, I never finish my movies. I abandon my movies,
Yeah,
he said.
I hear
And
that
that's
all the
how I
time.
feel about music because you can always improve. You can always change things. One year there's a single I released like 3 months ago. When I hear it, I still hear things that I should have done better or that I new ideas of arrangements and but sometimes for artistic projects you have to put an end to it and that's part of also that's part of the job knowing how to end and being able to end because sometimes people never release a song because they never accept that it has to be finished because they feel they're abandoning their songs and you have to go through this, go over this.
Yeah,
But that's one of the that's a very important point you're mentioning
yeah,
because that's a difficulty when you're doing songs, especially with the mixes. Because there are always things you can adjust. There are always things you could change, things you want to change, and then it becomes little details nobody will is gonna hear but you just don't want this to be finished because you're scared,
yeah. Of
you know?
course.
And yeah, that's something difficult to deal with as an artist. I mean, for me, it's it's been a challenge. Now I'm less perfectionist, but perfectionist is really hard to handle when you're an artist, I think.
Yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with every choice you make. I think as an artist.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
before
Hmm.
so before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation. Is there just anything else with Elyose you would like to promote with the release of Devant in terms of videos or shows, or what else would you like to plug?
So, next week, next Thursday, February 9, we will release the album and also a new video with it. So that's the one I told you about. That's called Black Friday in French, Vendredi Noir. And so there will be a new video and a new album at the same time. So next Thursday is going to be a big day for Elyose.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Elyose. Be sure to pick up Devant coming out February 9th. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.